When you need something hearty to fuel you up fast, grab a can of Campbell's Chunky Soup. Packed with big chunks of meat and vegetables, and now in 50 flavors. Campbell's Chunky Soup, the hearty way to fuel your game. Find your flavor at Chunky.com. The North Carolina Tar Heels head to Durham to face their fiercest rivals, the Duke Blue Devils. Touchdown! Coverage begins Thursday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Presented by Dr. Pepper. This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Richard, were you surprised at all by sort of the way that the play at the end of the half sort of took off?
No, not really. I mean, this is the league. They need something to talk about. They need something to make themselves more relevant.
Jameis Winston.
Losing is too easy, and I hate easy stuff. I want stuff to be hard. That's why I want to win championships.
Bill Belichick.
Given the nature of this presidential race,
Seattle.
Did you find it helpful to talk to your players about?
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
Here we are, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line on a Thursday in an America still reverberating from the events of this week. And in our world of sports, that certainly has been at the front and center. We've got three coaches for you to hear from here in just a moment, demonstrating three very, very different ways to approach the same basic issue. We've also got lots of basketball and an absolutely terrible football game tonight. So we are busy indeed, Golic, on this Thursday morning.
Yeah, we are. Listen, we all know what just went on with the election, and we saw what went on in the sports world, and we'll play some. We saw what happened on in the real world, with protests going on, and it's the immediate reaction of what went on. People are speaking their minds, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And all I would say is that you have your opinion and just listen to other opinions as well. And especially in the sports world, I think one thing I can clearly say that it's going to move on and probably and very soon from at least the sports side of it. It'll just be back to games as we're talking about and their sport and their seasons, and we go from there. But right now, listen, I understand, immediate reaction after the events that took place on Tuesday.
Which is makes what Nick Saban said all the more fascinating. We're going to play those for you coming up in a moment. You'll hear from Steve Kerr, and he is one of many who spoke yesterday passionately about the results of the election. Then you'll hear from Nick Saban. His perspective on this was, it was unbelievable to the extent that I don't actually believe it.
I don't know.
And then there was Bill Belichick, from whom I suppose one should never be surprised, regardless of the way he chooses to handle matters big or small. In this case, big, and usually in the major scheme of things, small. We also have a very special early visit from our buddy Mark Schlereth this morning, and he'll be in our studio right after we catch you up on the busy night in the world of sports. Going off the top, Golic, and it was the kind of night that the Warriors were expecting when they put together their now big four. Steph and Clay and KD and Draymond each made 4 threes last night in a win over Dallas.
Mark, the first time since the NBA instituted the three-point line in '79 that 4 players from the same team each made at least 4 shots from beyond the arc. They were 14 of 20 on three-pointers in the first half. Their most made three-pointers in a half this season, which is really starting to blow my mind of three-pointers. When you think of three-pointers, when you think of garbage, think of Hakeem. When you think of three-pointers, think of Steph Curry and Golden State. I still can't believe there's any more records to set about with three-pointers, and yet they continue to do it. So if there is a three-point record or tentacle record associated with a three-pointer, if there's a record had, it's going to be by Golden State.
Off the top.
Meanwhile, it will be a very interesting welcome, we would imagine, for Dwayne Wade tonight as he returns to Miami. The greatest player in the history of the Heat franchise will go back for the first time ever wearing a different uniform.
Yeah, he will, and as we've been hearing about reports the last couple of days, he has not spoken since he's left to Pat Riley. As I've always said, going back to a team, no matter how long you've been there or not, and oh, by the way, he's been there long enough to lead in every category you can lead in for that franchise, to go back under any circumstances, you're always looking to give a little more, and if it wasn't as amicable as you wanted to in this situation, there certainly is overt tones and underlying tones of that you really want to kind of stick it to him. But you also have friends that were on that team. I'm sure over the years you got to know a lot of fans that are sitting around close there, so you have some positives as well. But he is one of a few players who've won 3 titles with their drafting team and a top 5 pick in the common draft area. He and Duncan.
Yep. I'm teasing that.
Didn't see it.
Okay. Never mind. Moving on.
Off the top.
James Harden became the 3rd San Antonio visitor to produce a triple-double in the Greg Popovich era. And, Harden, as we said yesterday, his numbers, almost like those of the Colorado Rockies, get inflated because he's playing for Mike D'Antoni. Harden is going to put up colossal numbers this season.
Yep, he is. And I keep saying D'Antoni wanted him to double his assist, and he's basically doing that. He is So I guess the question at the end of it all, when this evens out, because some players will rest. You wonder, will it happen out in Golden State? With Durant, who's been their best player, and the scores I'm talking about. It'll happen with LeBron James. But Russell Westbrook and James Harden, those guys are going to have to be huge for their team all year to get a good seed in the playoffs. So whose stats will be more impressive at the end of the year, Harden or Westbrook?
Westbrook's will come from sheer anger. And I think Harden's numbers may actually wind up rivaling those of Westbrook. But I'll say this: if you put Mike D'Antoni as Westbrook's coach, he could actually set every NBA record. He could challenge Wilt Chamberlain's numbers, and Wilt pretty much has his own NBA record book. And then finally, it's the Browns and the Ravens tonight on Thursday Night Football. I don't really know exactly how to get you excited about this game. The Browns will be trying to seek starting 0-10. Yeah. Does that get you excited?
No, it doesn't. That'd be the first time in franchise history, which when you think of the ineptitude in Cleveland, you'd have think they'd have already done that a couple of times. Remember,
it's funny, the way you phrased that, it sounds like we were saying it's the first time they didn't start 0-10 in franchise history, as opposed to the opposite, because it sort of feels the other way.
Yeah, and remember, these two teams already played. The Browns had a 20-point lead on the Ravens when they played early in the season, and obviously, since they haven't won this year, we know they lost that lead, but we'll see. Maybe we can pull one out of the hat tonight.
We'll find out. That is Off the Top with Mike and Mike. It's presented by Progressive Insurance. In November, Progressive will give away over 100 vehicles to veterans in need as part of the Keys to Progress program, giving thanks for the freedom they've given us. To learn more, go to progressive.com/keys to progress. That music can mean only one thing, at least on this show. It can mean only one thing. It means Mark Schlereth is here, his regular Thursday visit,
and truly did a walk-up. Truly, for those listening on radio, he truly did a walk-up.
It is his walk-up music, and he walked up to the music.
Thank you.
Yeah. How are you, Stank?
I am doing good. How are you guys doing this morning? Great to be with you for a full hour.
Yeah, I love that.
Give or take a couple minutes.
Well, full hour. It's
ish. Full hour-ish.
Ish. Plus or minus.
Plus or minus. Yeah. I love that.
We were just commenting quickly here on, you got Baltimore and Cleveland tonight. I did see somewhere that Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, who have been the primary team on NBC since the retirement of John Madden, which goes back to the 2010 season, they've done 150 games together. They've never done a Cleveland Browns game. Now, tonight's game will not be on NBC. It's the NBC crew that now does the Thursday nights, but this one is exclusively on NFL Network. And as the election sort of starts to fade away, I don't think it has faded away clearly yet, as we're all about to get into here, but as it does over the weeks, we'll start to be able to find out just how much of a factor in the declining ratings and overall interest in the NFL the election actually was. That's been one of the popular reasons. An issue that they do have clearly is if you're going to put Cleveland and Baltimore on in week 11 or whatever this is, with a real everyone knew the Browns were going to be terrible this season. Now, this game, under any circumstance, I don't care what it is,
wasn't going to be good.
Was never going to get a number.
I'm with you. So it is surprising it gets its own night. Coming right off the election, to your point, Greeny, we'll see now going forward. There are, I think, more than a few reasons we'd all agree why the ratings are down. Election year being one of them. Now that it's over, so you're looking to come out of the gate, and the first game you come out of the gate with is the Browns and Baltimore. Listen, we can, as I said, you can hope upon hope that it's a great game somehow, some way. We'll see, but certainly the Browns aren't playing for anything. As we get to the back half of the season, we start talking more and more about games that have the meaning behind it, and the meaning for Cleveland is just to try and get the goose egg, from under the W column. We'll see. According to the NFL FPI gives the Browns a 15% chance of losing all their remaining games. There's only one other team over 5%, and that's the 49ers at 5.1%. Cleveland's a full 10% higher than that, so not good for them.
Yeah, it certainly isn't good, and this is certainly not the game you probably want to come out of the gate with when you're trying to prove that your product isn't bad. Isn't that what it comes down to? I mean, you look at it, and there's a million different reasons. There's a million different things that go into why this product is suffering right now. The election being one of them, there's no question about that. You can't help but look at that. You can't help but have that take some of your attention away. But you would like to actually come out of the gates with a game that would not be regional. One of the issues with this Thursday night game, I was thinking about this. Baseball in this country, and I love baseball. You guys know I'm a baseball junkie, right? One of the problems is it's really become regional matchups.
Right.
Like the rest of the country doesn't really care. I mean, the Cubs story, the Indian story, great. Unbelievable World Series, play off that momentum. But a lot of these matchups have become regional. To me, Thursday night games are regional games. Like nobody tunes into Thursday night anymore. The product is really bad. The guys aren't fresh. They're not ready to play. And, oh, by the way, let's create a regional matchup. And from a national standpoint, if you're not in Baltimore, you're not in Cleveland, do you really care about this game right now with 0-8 Cleveland Browns and
you knew when you were making the schedule, everybody knows when the election is, and everybody knows when you made this game, so it is a little surprising.
Yeah, and to your point, last Thursday night I was out in Evanston in Chicago for the weekend, and so I had on both night. That night was the night that you had Atlanta-Tampa, which is not a terrible game. You have Atlanta with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, who's are big stars, and he's potentially the MVP of the league.
Right.
And you've got Tampa, which has Jameis Winston, and it's not a terrible game.
I agree.
And on the same night, now I grant you, this was a uniquely interesting NBA regular season game between Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
Right,
that was the night that they played each other for the first time. Obviously, that skews the equation. It was one of the circle the calendar kind of NBA games. But the buzz, if you just looked at social media, if you were just sort of watching the game as we generally do now, right, with one eye on what's going on Twitter, no one was talking about the football game that I could see. It was almost as though the football game wasn't going on.
Right.
Everyone was talking about KD and Westbrook. Again, that's a unique NBA
situation.
Game. There are very few NBA games that were going to get that kind of attention. But I think it does illustrate one thing the NBA has done that the NFL really has never needed to do, and that is build up its stars to a point where that was drama. That was like reality TV.
Right.
KD versus Russ was reality TV. The NFL for years has not done that. They've sold the Shield. They've sold.
It's not banking on stars.
It has never had to.
Right.
And I don't know that I'm not suggesting it has to.
Right.
But I'm saying you've got some pretty high-profile NFL players playing on a Thursday night, and I didn't see what the television ratings said that night, candidly. So for all I know, I'm sure the NFL game maybe did easily outright the NBA game. I don't know. Maybe we can find that out. But certainly, at least from an initial buzz, immediate what people were talking about standpoint, I felt like everyone was talking about the basketball game that night.
No, I agree, but I also agree if it was a normal basketball night, I don't think we would have had that. But because it was a unique situation. But to your point, you're right. You build around stars. You talk about stars. Stars lead the league. The NFL never had to do that.
Right.
The NFL didn't have to worry about the stars. Didn't have to worry about markets at all. It was just the game that everybody. It certainly helped because when you had the stars, obviously, the Brett Favres of the world and the Peyton Mannings of the world. But it didn't have to live off that.
I've always, as a football guy, I've always looked at it like basketball season starts on Christmas Day. Right. I watch the Christmas games, and then it goes on hiatus. It's like, hey, they've got their winter break, and then it comes back right after the Super Bowl. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on in the NBA now, right?
Yeah.
So just the fact that I even knew that game was counter to the NFL for me, because I don't pay any attention usually to that until, like I said, until after the Super Bowl is over. It's just changing. The fact that it was on my radar it says something. I don't know what it says, but it says something.
Yeah, there are a lot of different factors in all of this, and one of them is that you can have an interest in tonight's Ravens-Browns game based upon your own fantasy interest and all that kind of stuff, but you don't have to watch the game in order to know how that turns out. Right. There isn't any reason you have to. Mike and I play the weekly fantasy or the daily fantasy every week, and, you might have Joe Flacco tonight. You might have the Ravens defense tonight against a terrible Browns offense, but you don't have to watch the game to know how that turns out.
Right.
So it's not necessarily –
Did you pick a Browns Browns player that you might have, just to make
Terrell Pryor Sr.
Okay,
I can't Terrell Pryor more than a few times.
I just wanted you to give them a little love, too.
You know what?
You might have one of those guys.
He's done me well. All year.
Oh, no, he's good.
He's been amazing.
He started out this season as a steal. He costs a lot now.
Right.
All year, Greeny and I and others have been saying, boy, the Browns, I know they're losing, but they're in games. You want they're getting better. So I guess, in a way, to me, that gives me a little bit of is hope. Can you say hope in Cleveland? I guess now that they finally have a championship, you can say hope that give their plan a chance. Listen, They basically gutted the team, right? And they've been competitive in games, but it is professional sports. So being competitive only takes you so far. It comes down to wins and losses. To say, okay, let's see where this goes. I the number one pick in the draft. Let's see what direction they go.
I like the direction. Yeah. And, unfortunately, up until this point, until this year, none of their draft picks had panned out, especially in the first round. So, at least in recent years. So, there is some hope there, and I like their plan. And you're right, 100%. You put them on film. They're playing hard, and you know what? And they're competitive. They're in games.
The television ratings for that night, by the way, the NFL game Atlanta-Tampa was on NFL Network only. That did a 4.3 rating. If you compare it to last season, which was a Cleveland-Cincinnati game, they did a 6.4 rating. So this was tremendously down 33%-ish. I'm just doing that in my head.
And on NFL Network, right?
On NFL Network.
Okay.
The NBA game I'm talking about, which was Oklahoma City Golden State, which was on TNT, did a 2.8 rating. So the NFL game did outrate it. But if you look at the same night the year before,
year to year,
the NBA game, again, this was a uniquely good NBA regular season game. The year before, the NBA game had done a 1.1 rating. This was the KD Russ factor.
Exactly.
So it's not a good comparison, but it is what it is. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. All right, guest today, Stink is here for the hour. Brian Billick's on the way. Booger McFarland today. Dan Lebatard today. Trent Dilfer today. The guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. If you miss anything on our show, a reminder, you can always listen to any and all 4 hours on demand in the ESPN app. And our winning word of the day is coming up in a half hour, 6:45 Eastern this week. We'll give you the word. We'll give you the ways to enter, and you could be on your way with us to the College Football National Championship game. Okay, it was, we've said many times, guys, the sports world is now just kind of a microcosm of society in a variety of different ways. And so, as was the case probably at every water cooler in America yesterday, people around the sports water cooler were talking about the election. So I have three. We have a ton of sound bites that we'll play you as the day continues. But I have three that I'll play for you here because you could not handle this more differently than these three people did. We'll start with Steve Kerr, who is, of course, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, talking about his feelings on the election.
People are getting paid millions of dollars to go on TV and scream at each other, whether it's in sports or politics or entertainment. And I guess it was only a matter of time before it spilled into politics. But, then all of a sudden you're faced with the reality that the man who's going to lead you has routinely used racist and misogynist insulting words. That's a tough one. You walk into a room with your daughter and your wife who've basically been insulted by his comments, and they're distraught. And then you walk in and you see the faces of your players, most of them who have been insulted directly as minorities. It's sort of shocking. It really is.
So the entire NBA, not the entire NBA, an enormous number of people within the NBA, which is, I believe, the most socially progressive league, largely because their leadership encourages it as opposed to discourages it, was very vocal yesterday, very outspoken in a lot of places.
They were. A lot of players spoke up as well about it. And as I've said, I watched a ton. And I do anyway, as Greeny, in my office, a ton of the news channels. And I made sure yesterday I really flipped the channel around because they always talk about this station is more for this person or that. Right. So I really flipped it around. And my what I was hearing, it really was an education for me because even those stations were going into the sports world as well and saying this is what the sports people think. And then what some of the commentators were saying out of that was basically, listen, that's great and that's their opinion and they can have it. And I heard one say, well, Steve Kerr can talk about his wife and his daughter and try and explain that situation when there are the majority of people who voted for Donald Trump basically can tell their kids, we don't like what he stands for, but the system the last whatever amount of years hasn't worked for us, so we needed to change. So everybody, that's what the commentators were saying, and I was really kind of listening to the cross-section of opinions of, you can have your opinion on why you don't like him, and I understand, and then but you have to make sure you listen to everybody's opinion of, not only the person who is a head coach in the NBA, but someone who's working a farm, to someone who's working in a steel mill, to someone who's working on Wall Street. Everybody sees the election, I think, through their own eyes. How does it affect them? How is it going to affect them? And they vote accordingly.
Yeah. It just was, it was shocking. The whole process. And I flew out here on election night, so I had the DirecTV going. Right. And I did the same thing, flipped around stations and was just kind of absorbed it all. So it was fairly shocking.
An education, isn't it?
Yeah, and I understand. I understand people that are distraught about it. I get it. And so, it is what it is at this point. And I'm not the most political guy in the world, but at this point, I just hope that we find a way to quit the division in this country and come together and love each other. And that's the biggest thing that I would like to see happen. And obviously there's a lot of people that look at that candidate and say, well, that's never what he's been about, or at least his outward presence. So, it's been a pretty interesting run, that's for sure.
So that's how Steve Kerr chose to handle it. The way Nick Saban chose to handle it was quite different and in its own way extraordinary. And then Bill Belichick, if you haven't already seen it, we'll play it for you, if only for the humor value. Again, in 25 minutes, you'll get the word of the day. We'll continue with the reaction to the election from around the world of sports, because that does bring it into our world. Yesterday, we talked, we said that we wanted to provide a respite from election coverage for all of you who wanted that respite. Yeah. Yesterday, the conversation went into the sports world at this point. I think it becomes part of what we have to cover here on Mike and Mike. So we have that more for you. I have a great trivia question that Golic tried his best to blow, but he didn't. And there is an outstanding trivia question I'll get to as we continue in this hour as well. But right now, a word.
Hold on. I actually look at your teases, and there's nothing in that tease that would lead me to believe.
When I write da-da-da, what does that mean?
No, I know it's a question, but there's nothing that would have told me that was that
correct
what I was talking about.
Right. That doesn't necessarily. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped you.
Okay.
You didn't do anything wrong.
Okay.
I'm not chastising you.
I thought you
I just wanted to stop you before you blew the tease. It's a good trivia question.
I'm used to you chastising me.
Well, because you usually deserve a chastising. Let's do a word from Chevy, shall we? Football fans know that Chevy and College Football Game Day are a great team, and they have been for many years. A great team that'll be together again this Saturday in Seattle. It's USC and Washington. But did you know the entire Chevy team is on a roll when it comes to quality and dependability?
Yep, Chevy has earned more 2016 J.D. Power Initial Quality and Dependability Awards than any other brand. 5 Initial Quality Awards, 4 Dependability Awards, for a total of 9 just this year. What does that mean? It means quality right out of the gate and long-term dependability down the road. In fact, Chevrolet is the most awarded car company over the last 2 years. So the question is, why haven't you bought a Chevy yet? Head over to Chevy.com to find the award-winning, high-quality, dependable Chevrolet that's right for you. Chevrolet, find new roads. For more info on Chevy's exceptional J.D. Power rankings, go to jdpower.com. Back after this, Mike and Mike.
Green, front court left. Waits for Clay. Finds Clay. He's open. He'll fire for 3. Got another one! Clay Thompson on an 18-point quarter. And now Rick Carlisle's going to call another timeout. 4:03 to go in the quarter. And Clay Thompson is 7 for 7. 4 of 4 outside the arc. He has 18 of the 23.
95-7 the game, the play-by-play. Mike and Mike, our sports headlines. Golden State had 4 different players make at least 4 threes in a win over their former teammate Harrison Barnes and the Mavericks. Elsewhere, just if you're a fantasy basketball player, just take James Harden. Playing in that Mike D'Antoni offense. He had another triple-double last night. Rockets beat the Spurs on the road by a deuce. And tonight, we got college football. It's number 17 North Carolina at Duke, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN, and watch ESPN. SportsCenter with Mike and Mike, brought to you by Fanatics.
If you love your team, a player, or your city, check out Fanatics.com. Fanatics is the world's largest collection of official fan gear from all the leagues, teams, and players you love. Officially licensed everything. Fanatics, love never loses.
You know, I want to pick up the conversation where it was a moment ago as the rest of the country joins us. We heard Stan Van Gundy with some very passionate views about what happened in the election the other night, and certainly everyone is sharing their opinions, and everyone is entitled to their opinions. But the one thing that I thought was most interesting in what he said was he said that he came into work in the morning yesterday and he could just tell a different attitude, that a lot of his players were really upset by what had happened, and he chose to address that with them and whatnot. And I'm curious to know, I've never been a part of anything like this, of course, and you guys have. So I can certainly imagine on a high school level, I'm guessing that in every high school athletic team everywhere yesterday, I would hope, the coach sat down and talked with his players or her players about whatever their emotions may be, even on the college level, because those are places for spiritual and emotional and intellectual, awakening. On the pro level, these are, like, for example, Stan Van Gundy. Would you have expected, Mark Schlereth, I'll give you the chance to comment here, if something like this had happened while you were playing, do you think that the coaches would have taken some time out to say, hey, let's talk about this? Yeah. If this is something that's on everybody's mind, if this is something that has everyone in a different place mentally than they would normally be, is this something that we as a group should sit down and talk about?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I would expect the head coach to come up and create a meeting in the morning meeting and say, hey, guys, you know what, let's hash this out for a few minutes. And very much like Mike said earlier, a lot of it is, while we're here, we need to be focused on what we need to be focused on, but you can use this as a catalyst to change. One of the things they always say in a locker room is, let's not talk politics, let's not talk money, let's not talk religion. That's one of the things they always talk about in a locker room environment. But you have to talk about it to some degree, and you have to address it. And, one of the things that always I was blessed. I played for a bunch of great offensive line coaches, Hall of Fame type of guys, with Joe Bugle and Jim Hanifin and Alex Gibbs during my course of time. In the National Football League, I played for a guy by the name of Dan Cazzetto in college, who's a great offensive line coach. So I was coached exceptionally well during the course of my career. But one of the things, and I always speak about this when I'm doing corporate level speaking and things, that made us great in Denver was the way we were bonded. 5 guys becoming one, thinking, together to what's the best for us as an organization. And you take 5 guys like Zimmerman from Oregon and Brian Habib from Ellensburg, Washington, and me from Alaska, and Tommy Nalen from Foxborough, Massachusetts. You talk about guys from different parts of the country. Tony Jones, down from the South. I mean, there's a group of guys here that you have to basically become united to play well together. And we would shut down meetings every single Friday afternoon, about a half an hour before we would normally shut down a meeting. And Alex Gibbs, our offensive line coach, would put a topic on the grease board and say, let's discuss it so that we can understand each other's points of view.
What kind of topic? Like a social topic?
Anything. Hey, your daughter comes home, she's 16 and she's pregnant. Boom. What do we do?
Really?
What do we talk about? Absolutely. Shut down football. And we got to know one another. And we got to lean on one another. And we got to understand where each other came from. And whether you're white like me, fish belly white from Anchorage, Alaska, whether you're Tony Jones, I love him. He's my brother. And you know what? It became one of those things where we would unite and we would come together and we would accept each other's differences, because we are beautifully and wonderfully created differently. That's what makes us strong in this country. That's what's the beauty of this country, is we're woven together and we're completely different. But our differences are a strength. And until we embrace those things as a country, we're going to continue to have the same issues that we have now. Black, white, yellow, doesn't matter. We are wonderfully created different. And that's what makes us so dang strong. And I wish we would just embrace it. So we would talk about those social issues in our meetings every Friday. And I guarantee you, it's one of the things that made us a great unit, because individually, none of us were all that good. Gary Zimmerman's a Hall of Famer, but he was at the end of his career. Tommy Nalen should be a Hall of Famer. But you know what? I was a guy. Habib, I love you, Brian. You were a guy. We know what we were. But together we were great. And because we embrace that.
It's interesting. We never did anything like that. I mean, I'd say that's way more a rarity, the exception than the rule of what goes on in meeting rooms. Not to say that social issues aren't discussed, but you also have to look at the sport. Look where we are. All right, we're in the beginning of the basketball season of 82 games, so maybe it's discussed a little more, around games. Look where we are in the NFL. The NFL, you play one game a week, and yesterday was Wednesday, the first day of preparation.
Install.
So there's a real difference in how a coach may handle it for an NFL team that says, guys, I get it, but you know what? We're in the second half of the season here, and we got a game coming up, so we can discuss this. You can discuss this on your time, but we have a game to get ready for. Look at other situations. I just pulled one up just to pull it up. June 17th, 1994. What was that? That was the O.J. chase.
Yeah.
Now, football's not going on. Basketball, you're past the championship, so it's baseball.
It was during the finals.
It was during the finals.
The Knicks and Rockets were playing that night. Your point is correct, yes.
But baseball, you were in that season. So how do you deal with it for different sports? You're in June of a baseball season, as opposed to, as I'm talking about here, Wednesday in this about the second half of an NFL season on an install day to the seventh game of an NBA season.
Right.
So that's a factor as well on where you are in your particular season from our side.
I was in the locker room when O.J. Simpson was found not guilty. We all sat around and watched it, and there was shock. There was some excitement. It was kind of a crazy time in our country to watch that whole thing unfold like it did, especially because it brought it back to the sports world, and we addressed it as a team. Hey, guys, this is where we are. This is what happened. You know what? Let's hunker down, focus in on what we need to do, and let's move forward.
Some things are you just know they need to be talked about, at least acknowledged and talked about it, and then again, depending on where you are in your sports season, to move on to the task at hand.
Well, if you believe the words you are about to hear, then it is pretty clear they did not discuss this in the Alabama locker room yesterday. Here was Nick Saban when being asked about the election. You can make up your own mind if you think he's telling you the truth.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't even know yesterday was Election Day. So it was so important to me that I didn't even know it was happening. We're focused on other things here. I don't really make political comments. So if I say I like one person, that means that everybody that voted for the other person doesn't like me. So why would I do that? I want what's best for our country. I'm not sure I can figure that out. I want what's best for, people who want to improve the quality of their life. And I hope whoever our leader is will certainly do all that he can do to make our country safe and improve the quality of life of a lot of the people, that we have in our country. And I don't think I'm qualified to determine, who that should be.
The last part of that statement, I completely understand. The first part, I don't believe that. There's no way I believe he didn't know it was Election Day. I find that hard to believe. If he didn't, oh my gosh, that's really hold up.
You know what? I find harder to believe than that he didn't know it was Election Day. That he cares if the other side doesn't like him. Nobody likes you, Nick. I don't think anybody likes you.
Well, I have actually given that some thought. There have been during the election. I had on my list of things to get to almost every day for like 2 weeks. Mike Leach, among people, was a Trump supporter. He came out very vocally supporting Donald Trump, and there were others who came out supporting Hillary Clinton and whatever it is. And I was going to ask at one point on the show, do you think that is dangerous for coaches? Do you think that making that kind of whichever way you go, do you run the risk then of alienating recruits, which are the lifeblood of this? And I think there's Nick Saban basically saying it doesn't do me any good to be taking one side or the other. I agree with you. I find it hard to believe. And there was something about the way he said that I didn't love. That's how important it was to me. I didn't even know that it was Election Day. We had other things we're doing here, which is suggesting that the installation of his defense is more important than who the president of the United States is. I know that's not what he means. There was something in sort of the way that he said that I could have done without. But, coaches do live like in their own hermetically little sealed bubbles. I find it hard to believe he didn't know it was Election Day.
I do as well. I think that might be a little far-fetched there. But, all
right. We will have more of this reaction as the morning continues. We have plenty of the standard sports as well, and we'll get to that next. Coming up, it is often imitated. It's never duplicated. I will make a series of provocative statements about football, and these guys will tell us if they're true or false. And even more important, we're going to give you the word of the morning. We're going to give you the ways to enter. Coming up next, you could win a fabulous trip to the college football national championship game. That's after this word from Straight Talk Wireless. Mike, other wireless providers say they will cut your bill in half. But who knows what kind of coverage you're going to get.
When you switch to Straight Talk Wireless, you get nationwide coverage on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks and still save on your wireless bill every month. Get the unlimited plan for just $45 a month. No contract, no credit checks, no mystery fees. Straight Talk's bring your own phone plan. You can keep your phone, your number, even your network when you switch. Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, half the cost. We're back after this on Mike and Mike.
Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Doug Baldwin.
My name is Doug Baldwin with the Seattle Seahawks. I just want to give a special thank you to all the members of our service, of our country. Thank you for all that you do and for allowing us as members of the NFL to do what we do and what we love. Thank you.
Ferguson, the right people, the right product, right around the corner. Visit Ferguson.com.
All right, Mike and Mike, our Sports Center is brought to you by Sport Clips. Sport Clips Haircuts Help a Hero program funds scholarships for U.S. veterans who are pursuing a college degree or a vocational certification. Visit your nearest Sport Clips to learn more and donate now through November 11th. All right, here is our winning word of the morning, and we have 8 confirmed winners who are coming with us to the College Football National Championship game. And how great is this? Yesterday's winner was Sarah from Panama City Beach, Florida. Mike, we have 8 winners so far, 4 men and 4 women.
It's great. I think that's fantastic. From all across the country, they all get to bring a guest. This is working out incredibly well.
Indeed it is, and most of it is due to our friends at AutoZone who are giving you a chance to be on the road with us to the national championship game. We give you the word of the day right now. We'll give you the ways to enter, and you could be coming with us to the college football championship game. Get in the zone with AutoZone. Today's word, because we told Brooksy, and I don't want to take up a lot of time with it here, we told Brooksy we don't want the word to be confusing. Right. So again, he's starting to feel himself now because this is going well.
Yeah, he is.
So the word is confusing. Not figuratively, but literally.
Yes, it is.
The word of the day is confusing. CONFUSING. Please enter the word confusing both of these ways right now to double your chances of winning this trip.
We do understand this whole process can be confusing. So just use that word and text it to 777-000 or enter it online at Mike's Road to the CFP.com. So you take the word. These are the only 2 ways to enter, gang. Any other way, you will not be entered. So the word is confusing. Actually, it is confusing, as Greeny said. Text that word to 777-000 and enter it online at Mike's Road to the CFP.com.
We are thrilled to be able to take as many as we can this year to the college football championship game. All right, give me my music. Let's do true falls here and get through as many as we can looking ahead to the NFL week. Golic, I shall start with you.
Okay.
True or false, Tony Romo will take more snaps from center than Jared Goff will this season?
I think that's false. I think at some point you'll see Goff. At some point the Rams will be woefully out of it as opposed to now just about out of it. And I do think toward the end of the season you will see some Jared Goff take some snaps. And outside of Dak Prescott getting hurt, you're not going to see Tony Romo.
Stink.
I think it's false as well. I don't think Tony Romo's playing. I think it'll be nice, but it's a great story. But Dak Prescott playing too well, and eventually, I know they're not going to be an 8-8 team because they told us they weren't going to be an 8-8 team in Hard Knocks. They're probably going to be more like a 7-9, 6-10 team. So eventually, Golf will be the quarterback.
Next, stink. True or false? 3 teams from the NFC East will make the playoffs.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to say, why not? Let's go true. Right? You get your division winners and then your 2 wild card teams from the NFC East. Yeah, why not? I think right now they're so close. They're nip and tuck. Obviously, the Giants playing okay. The Redskins playing okay. The Cowboys playing great right now. So, yeah, why not 3 teams from there?
Yeah, right now that's exactly what it is with the Giants and the Redskins being those wild card teams.
The Eagles have 3 divisional losses, right? Haven't they lost to all 3 divisional rivals?
In their division.
Yeah, that hurts badly.
Everybody else is 2-1, but Dallas leading, and right now, as I said, it's the Giants and Redskins. I'll say true as well. I like that. Why not? Let's see it happen.
All right, let's stick with the theme. Golic, true or false? 3 teams from the AFC West will make the playoffs.
Wow. Man, that's another great one. You know what? I think I'm going to say true on that as well. I love that division right now. I love a tweet I got from someone that says, make Stink say something nice about the Raiders. But I I'm going to say true to that one as well.
He's not crazy about the Chiefs either, Stink.
No, listen, hey, I think it's true. I mean, the Raiders playing really good football. They lined up in heavy against the Broncos and bludgeoned them for 218 yards rushing. Big physical offensive line. I don't want to gush too much here because people in Denver will get mad at me. But, yeah, they're playing really good football. I'm going to go true on that.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is that your daughter Avery got in Travis Kelce's head, but he's throwing flags at refs and things like that. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to give him a call. Good tongue lash in there.
Next, Stink. With more states legalizing marijuana, the NFL should take it off its banned list of substances. True or false?
That's true. I think it's true. I think, you know what, I think it's a farce anyhow. You test for it one time, you tell them when the test is, and then if you pass the test, it's an idiot test, as we say all the time. You could take it off the ban list and not tell anybody. You can not tell anybody.
Suspended for it, though, is the thing. Right?
Well, they do. And quite honestly, with all the issues that the league has, maybe they just need to let go of this one. And just say we're not going to test for it.
Quit testing for it and don't tell anybody. Don't tell your players. Don't tell your organization. Just quit.
I think by the next CBA, I think it will be out. I think at that point, going through the whole CBA, it won't be tested for.
I have been saying for weeks on this issue, there's no reason you have to take it off the banned list. Just stop testing for it.
Right.
And then, if a player walks in and says, hey, I'm using marijuana, you can suspend him.
Or gets popped, driving, speeding, and all of a sudden they have marijuana on them and, the whole deal.
But you don't have to be testing for it. One more quickly. True or false, Golic? Zeke Elliott at some point is going to hit a rookie wall.
I'll say false because I think they have other ways to go. Jason Witten has been a monster for them. Des Bryant back, that O-line helping to pave the way, and Dak Prescott running the ball as well and making plays. So too much of a load isn't on Zeke Elliott. Yeah. They bring in Alfred Morris as well. I thought that was an excellent pickup. I said it when it happened. So, no, I think they can protect him enough to where he won't hit that wall.
I'm with you. I'm going false. I think one thing right now is just the way they run the ball. They're so multiple in the way they run the ball. They run a lot of heavy formations, double tight end formations, fullback formations, and they do. I mean, they run outside, they run inside. They run read zone stuff. There's a lot of variety there. I don't think he'll hit that wall.
We'll see if he winds up setting the rookie record. True False with Mike and Mike, brought to you by Dave & Buster's, the best sports bar ever, and this was about the best hour ever with Mark Schlereth in our studio. Thank you so much.
We will see you guys next week.
Luck is the smell.
As the smell of perspiration. That's a Herb Schlerethism.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans proudly supports Mike and Mike. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century. Forget about digging through stacks of paperwork. This completely online process lets you safely share your bank statements and pay stubs with a touch of a button. Using your phone or tablet, you can get approved for purchase or refinance in just a few minutes. Get a custom mortgage solution at your own pace, whenever and wherever you want. So if you're looking to refinance or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/Mikes.
Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
On the latest episode of the Bill Barnwell Show, I talked to Daniel Adler about Week 9 of the NFL season. You can check out the show on iTunes or by going to the ESPN app on your phone.
Red Hot USC heads to Seattle to face 4th-ranked Washington.
Far left side of the field for the end zone. Jump ball, Darius Rogers. Touchdown, USC.
Coverage begins Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.